Welcome to the program Global Weekly News, serial number 69. First, let us see Israel's attack on Gaza hospital. On 17th October, more than 500 Palestinian civilians died in a hospital at Gaza due to aerial bombing of Israeli forces. 600 got injured. Israel refuses all aids, including medical supplies, to the victims. Therefore, the injured people also may soon die. Bombing of Gaza hospital has sent shockwaves all over the world. As an emergency measure, demonstrations were held in many parts of the world condemning Israeli aggression, Israeli bombings on Palestine hospital. Forces of Palestinian Authority fired at protesters in Ramallah. In Lebanon, capital Beirut, the protesters entered UN building. In Amman, capital of Jordan, the protesters clashed with the security forces before Israeli embassy. Israel has been consistently targeting civilians in its war against Gaza. Israel fixed a time limit of 24 hours for the Palestinians living in northern part of Gaza to evacuate to the south. Israel has been massacring the Palestinians migrating to the south. Israel bombed UN-run school. 6 died, many got injured. Israeli forces are bombing Gaza to prevent entry of humanitarian aid. Second, we are going to see in detail the barbarity of Israel. Israel air forces have been bombing Palestine indiscriminately from 7th October when Hamas launched a sudden attack on Israel. All the hospitals in Gaza have to be shut down due to stoppage of fuel. Thousands of hospital patients' lives are in danger. 4 hospitals in Gaza shut down already. Israel has been threatening to evacuate the remaining 21 hospitals in Gaza. This is against international humanitarian law. As per World Health Organization documentation, 111 times Israel army planes had bombed medical infrastructure in Gaza since 7th October. More than a dozen medical aid group personnel were killed. Due to Israel's bombings, so far 3,500 Palestinians died. More than 10,000 got injured. 58 Palestinians were killed in West Bank of Palestine due to Israel's attacks. More than 1,000 children were killed. UN Refugees Welfare Association has stated that the number of people who are migrated from northern part of Gaza may exceed 10 lakhs. US is approaching many countries diplomatically to get support for Israel. The Arab countries strongly condemned Israel. Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State USA, is on a tour to visit the West Asia countries since 12th October to get support for Israel. US does not want escalation of Israel's attacks. US fears about retaliation by Hezbollah of Lebanon, Syria and other countries. Still, Israel bombed Syria and South Lebanon many times. President of Egypt told Anthony Blinken that punishing 23 lakh people of Gaza by Israel beyond a limit is not fair. Egypt is an ally, is a friend of US. Iran has warned that it will not be a bystander if Israel goes for a ground offensive against Hamas. Gustavo Petro, President of Colombia, condemned Israel's violence and atrocities in Gaza. Israeli ambassador of Colombia threatened of severing its ties with Colombia. Gustavo Petro retaliated that Colombia will never support genocide of Palestinians and not worried about losing Israel's relations. One Palestinian child is killed every 15 minutes. This is barbaric action of Israel in a land where religion based on love was born. Spanish Prime Minister also denounced Israel's forced evacuation of Palestinians from northern Gaza as a violation of international law. He has demanded the restoration of the supply of aid to civilians blocked by Israel and called for a two-state solution. Speaking to the press on 15th October, Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations called what is happening in Gaza as nothing but not less than an ethnic cleansing of Palestinians by the Israelis. Large-scale protests in support of the Palestinian cause were held across the globe during the weekends. A 10 lakh people march was held in Morocco's capital Rabat on 15th October. The march was attended by several MPs also. Despite the Moroccan country signing a normalization deal with Israel last year, large-scale protests were held in different parts of Pakistan on 13th October, supporting the Palestinian cause and condemning Israeli war on Gaza. Mass protests have also taken place in different cities across the US and other Western countries whose governments have pledged support to Israel. They have called for their governments to cease sending aid to Israel and to demand Israeli cease hostilities. In South Africa also, thousands of people took part in protests condemning Israel. The South African Sack Dwellers movement released a statement and said that Israel is committing war crimes against the Palestinian people. It added, the Netanyahu administration has announced the closure of water, electricity and the delivery of food in Gaza. This is a brutal and complete violation of human rights. The invasion and killings of the people of Palestine is inhuman, and those who are supporting Israeli attack on Gaza are not human beings, just like Netanyahu. Comrades, the United Nations Security Council met on 8th October and tried to pass a resolution on immediate ceasefire, but it failed. Again, on the 10th day of the Israeli war on Gaza, on 16th October, the United Nations Security Council failed to adopt a resolution demanding immediate humanitarian ceasefire. The draft resolution prepared by Russia, proposed by Russia, condemned all violence against civilians and all acts of terrorism without naming anyone, and demanded an immediate, durable and fully respected humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. Speaking before the vote, Palestinian ambassador to the UN appealed to the council members, Security Council countries, to be guided by the principles of international law without exception. He has also told the Council to not send a signal that Palestinian lives do not matter. The resolution received just 5 votes in favor, with Russia, China, Gabon, Mozambique and the United Arab Emirates voting in favor. 3 out of 5 permanent members, all of them NATO members, the United States, the United Kingdom and France, voted against the resolution along with Japan. 6 other countries abstained from voting. The US, France and the United Kingdom have endorsed the US, France and the United Kingdom have endorsed the Israeli right to self-defense and are completely backing its war in Gaza. The US has provided weapons and ammunition to the Israeli forces and deployed its warships in the region. It has already sent 2 planes of weapons. United Nations agencies have claimed that the Israeli blockade has led to shutting down all power plants in Gaza, endangering supply of essential services such as water and sanitation, and thousands of lives of those admitted in the hospitals. scores of illegal Israeli settlers stormed into Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem on 17th October. The repeated violations of Al-Aqsa was the reason cited by Palestinian resistance movements began launching Operation Al-Aqsa Flood on 7th October. Comrades and friends, now we are going to Johannesburg of South Africa to see what happened during the Third International Dilemma of Humanity Conference. The Third International Dilemma of Humanity Conference took place at Johannesburg in South Africa on October 14 to 18. What does socialism mean to the leaders of mass movements and left political parties from across the world? This question was at the center of the debate. Around 500 movement leaders, trade unionists, and members of left parties from more than 70 countries took part in the conference. The conference was organized by the International People's Assembly and hosted by the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, Shackdolers Movement of South Africa, and the Socialist Revolutionary Workers Party of South Africa. NUMSA President Andrew Chirwa condemned that the world capitalist system survives and thrives by exploiting nature, exploiting the working class, the poor, the rural farmers, and indigenous people. He said that the conference would be a space to plot how to overcome the crisis and build socialism. This was followed by a panel discussion on the current situation in Palestine, condemning the indiscriminate Israeli bombing of the Gaza Strip, as well as how to strengthen the international solidarity movement to end occupation of Palestine once for all. Many leaders of Palestine also took part in the conference. Another discussion on building socialism today was held. The speakers spoke about concrete experiences of building socialist solutions to the problems facing humanity. Mayor of a municipality and a member of the Communist Party of Chile shared his reflections on how his municipality has tried to confront the primary issues facing the population, such as access to health care and medicine, across access to housing, and increases in the cost of living. His administration has not only been able to implement social progress and services which meet their needs, such as the popular clinic and pharmacy, subsidized housing, etc. The People's Republic of China has been building socialism in its own path since 1949. It has gone through many stages, many advances, many steps back, many lessons, many errors. Chinese journalist told, China has eradicated extreme poverty through the cooperation of the people, the poor, and the peasants. Carmen Navas, the executive director of the Simon Bolivar Institute of Venezuela, spoke about the Bolivarian Revolution and how a socialist consciousness was built in the country through the construction of social policies. The Venezuelan population, which did not talk about socialism in 1989, 30 years later began to talk about socialism thanks to Comrade Hugo Chavez, the president of Venezuela who died. Chavez stated, Marxist historian Vijay Prasad considers socialism is the process of changing the situation of hunger, illiteracy, homelessness, etc. He added that it is not that there is no consensus among the majority of the world population that these things should be overcome, but the people lack the power to be able to take this forward. Vijay Prasad gave a rallying call and stated that in order to build power, we have to build the strength of the working class and the peasantry. This requires rebuilding the culture of struggle. The conference discussed how to address the environmental crisis from a socialist perspective, an issue of issues of human dignity. Every year, government officials, think tanks, NGOs, and representatives of the private sector convene the conference of the parties to discuss about the climate change and all that, climate crisis and all that. This conference is sponsored by the world's largest multinational corporations such as Unilever, Danone, Bayer, Nestle and others, companies that are responsible for a large part of the environmental devastation that has brought our world to the brink. As such, the discussions which take place are rarely ever to point to the real culprits and demand the changes which are necessary to save life on the planet. The conference on the dilemmas of humanity focused more on the necessary solutions to save life on the planet. It highlighted that capitalism is incompatible with life. Tanzania's speaker told that the people are trying to defend the rights to use and access land. People are defending the forests, the rights to use water and seeds. The Indian left scholar Singh Panwar told that even the world's top scientists are conscious that the current system is leading the humanity on a path to destruction. The United Nations body, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is a body for assessing the science related to climate change. The IPCC report points out that there has to be a systematic shift. Singh Panwar emphasized that this shift means the end of capitalism and the birth of socialism. Tunisia has been suffering from frequent droughts and heat waves. US military is one of the single largest polluters on the planet. More than 140 countries combined, yet the poor countries of the global south and poor people themselves are often pointed to as those responsible for the pollution. Egypt, Libya and Tunisia and all countries of sub-Saharan Africa will witness huge extraction of resources from their land and even loss of their land. The extraction of green hydrogen requires huge quantities of water. The conference discussed the key challenges and tasks to organize the working class. The organization of the working class internationally, the right of people to health and housing, food sovereignty and the rights of immigrants were at the center of the discussions on the second day of the conference on international dilemmas. The theme of the debate was the challenges facing the working class today in the face of the ferocious onslaught launched by the capitalist system on the ruling class through neoliberal policies. Capitalism has no solution to the problems of society, and only the united working class is capable of facing and responding to the current dilemmas. The crises are accompanied by a policy of austerity, reduction of the state's role, reduction of the health system, of the public education system, and of the public care system. Capitalism is incompatible with life. Who is creating everything in society? It is not the ruling class. It is not the capitalist class. It is only the working class. The working class is the class of the future, said Peter Mertens, a member of the Workers' Party of Belgium. The conference seminar discussed on health and public housing, migrants' rights and the food sovereignty of nations. South African leaders said that land will never be delivered by a helicopter or on a silver plate. Land will never be given. It has to be taken. Comrades, lastly we go to see the anti-working class bill of Belgium government. Working class sections and left-wing parties in Belgium have intensified their agitation against a bill proposed by the government of Belgium to ban protests. On 5th October, around 10,000 people demonstrated in Brussels demanding that the bill should be withdrawn. Thank you, comrades. Lots of love. See you next week.